1 month of Todd Blanche serving as acting attorney general, and we're getting an idea of how he would lead the department if he gets the job full time. MS Now has learned that this second indictment of former FBI Director James Comey over allegations he threatened President Trump in a social media post gained new steam when Blanche took over. This is according to two people familiar with the effort. During former Attorney General Pam Bondi's tenure, this case appeared to be on an indefinite hold. Let's bring in MS Now Justice and Intelligence reporter Ken Dilanian and former U.S. Attorney and MS Now legal analyst Joyce Vance. Ken, you're learning more about why it took so long to bring this case against Comey. Bring us the details.
Well, Anna, this new reporting by my colleagues Carol Lenigan, Fallon Gallagher shows that this case really was on ice during Attorney General Pam Bondi's tenure. She felt that the case in Virginia against Mr. Comey was far stronger. Of course, that case was thrown out by a judge. And it was only when Todd Blanche became the acting attorney general that this North Carolina Seychelles threats case got new life. And Blanche's aides pressured and instructed the U.S. Attorney's Office in North Carolina to get moving on this case and to bring this case. And the U.S. Attorney there was only too happy to oblige. Previously, it had been thought that they should wait until he was fully confirmed by the Senate. He's not confirmed. He's the acting, but they went forward with this case. And I think it just shows that Todd Blanche is determined to move forward on these cases that he knows are of great interest to Donald Trump as he essentially auditions for the permanent role as Attorney General. And by the way, he can stay in the acting role a pretty long time, more than 200 days, and then they can nominate him, and he can stay in as long as the nomination is pending before the Senate because he was the first assistant, and he's previously been confirmed by the Senate. So we may have Todd Blanche in the acting role for a long time, and it's pretty clear that Donald Trump approves of how he's handling the job so far, Anna.
Joyce, the New York Times reports that by firing Attorney General Pam Bondi and then conspicuously declining to name her interim replacement, Todd Blanche, as the permanent successor, Mr. Trump has created an environment in which multiple officials seem to all be fighting for their jobs, according to current and former officials. The result is ever greater incentive to execute his increasingly extreme demands without much pushback. Joyce, what does this mean for rank-and-file prosecutors who are just trying to follow the letter of the law? How does this type of environment potentially shape this DOJ?
Well, you've just made a great case, Anna, for the historical independence that DOJ has asserted from the White House when it comes to criminal prosecutions. It's because this Justice Department is so beholden to the White House, so committed to this president, that we're concerned about the pressure that's being applied. And look, it's damaging to morale in U.S. attorneys' offices across the country. But rank and file prosecutors are by and large not involved in the cases that you and I talk about every day. They are trying to keep people safe in their districts, prosecuting drug cases, gang violence cases, bank robberies, the bread and butter work that the Justice Department does. And the real problem that they have is that when they take a case to a jury, they have to hope that that jury understands that they are not what the jury is reading about in Washington at the White House, that they are simply prosecutors who are trying to do their job and that their evidence can still be trusted. In other words, what we're seeing happening in Washington can spill over and can really damage prosecutors' abilities to keep their districts safe.
Ken, you also have some exclusive details about Blanche's impact on another big DOJ indictment this week. Fill us in.
Anna, Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee say they have information from a whistleblower that Todd Blanche's aides, once again, Todd Blanche, pressured the Middle District of Alabama, the U.S. Attorney's Office there, to bring the indictment against the Southern Poverty Law Center, that controversial indictment, quickly, despite concerns inside that office about the strength of the case. And obviously, a lot of independent legal experts have criticized this case. And what the House Democrats are saying is that they were told that a man named Akash Singh, who is an associate attorney general and is known within DOJ as Todd Blanche's enforcer, that he was pressuring and essentially ordering the Middle District of Alabama, the U.S. Attorney's Office there, to bring this case and to move it forward. It's another example of Todd Blanche pressing forward on cases that he knows are of great interest to MAGA activists and Donald Trump. And so now we have this indictment accusing the Southern Poverty Law Center of fraud because they paid informants inside far-right groups. And their position is, yeah, we were trying to infiltrate these groups to stop them. And the FBI knew about it because we shared that information with them. But now they've been charged with felonies on it.
Joyce, what does this rushed process suggest to you?
You know, this suggests exactly what we've been talking about. The fact that we have people who want permanent jobs in the Justice Department. The U.S. attorney in Montgomery, Alabama, hopes to be the permanent U.S. attorney, is not currently Senate confirmed. And these people understand that the decisions that they make in cases Washington cares about deeply can influence their personal futures. I'm not defending that conduct, by the way. I think what you do in this situation as a U.S. attorney is you look at the indictment that you're being asked to bring against the Southern Poverty Law Center, and you say, not on my watch. And if necessary, you resign, because this is not an appropriate indictment. You know, the prosecutor handling the case has been a federal prosecutor for about a minute. We know that many of the U.S. attorneys' offices have been hollowed out by resignations. And so there's not always the career expertise that's necessary to evaluate difficult cases. But this case against the Southern Poverty Law Center really stands out because the theory of prosecution that one of the nation's longest standing, most committed civil rights group, a group whose mission is explicitly to take down hate groups, the idea that because they were paying informants to give them the information that they needed to do their work, that they somehow were supporting those hate groups is ludicrous. But this is just another example of what this DOJ is willing to do to curry favor with the White House.
Ken, I want to turn to another topic in the DOJ's wheelhouse. There's new reporting surfacing about a potential suicide note purportedly written by Jeffrey Epstein. What can you tell us?
This is a wild story, Anna. The New York Times discovered that there's evidence that Jeffrey Epstein wrote a suicide note that's never seen the light of day because it's under seal on orders of a federal judge. And the Justice Department is saying they've never seen this note. They have no idea what it says. It was not released as part of the tranche of Epstein files, nor was it redacted, according to the DOJ. It's under seal. It was given to another inmate in the prison where Jeffrey Epstein was. Obviously, this is of great interest, given the conspiracy theories and so many people who believe that Jeffrey Epstein didn't commit suicide, even though the Justice Department's Inspector General did an exhaustive investigation and determined that he, in fact, did commit suicide. So obviously, we'd all love to see this suicide note and see what light it sheds, if any, on the circumstances of Jeffrey Epstein's death.
Got to leave it there for now. Ken Dilanian and Joyce Vance, thank you.